I'm joined by Steve because I saw a video that you did that got me very, very excited because sometimes I feel like I'm alone.
Microsoft is killing Windows.
I really do feel like that sometimes, and it's not just me. So you
I
think
brought
so?
you something.
Uh-oh.
This is the best implementation of Windows that Microsoft ever made.
So we brought this to troll a little bit. This is the lowest power x86 system in the whole building. It runs for 40 hours on 2 AA batteries, and so we were being a little bit of a troll here.
It's completely valid. You can type on that on the plane for multiple flights.
Yeah. If you just need to have a lightweight interface for something, it works pretty great. We've lost sight of something. We need that 15-hour battery life once again. I think we're going to get it.
I think so. So we were talking though about where's Microsoft today, and it's maybe low-hanging fruit to pick on Microsoft. They are one of the most valuable companies in the world. I don't feel bad about picking on them, but it just feels like it really feels like Windows as a quality, like service quality, has been in steady decline.
Yeah. Well, I was going to take a slightly different tack on it, which is Windows feels very adversarial. And so when I use it, it's like it really wants me to use OneDrive. What does Microsoft get out of that? Because $1 trillion company, got to make line go up.
Oh yeah.
So I don't
data
think
mining, I guess.
I don't think most people realize they actually want to build a genuinely good user experience. All right, great. Let me change the way the start menu works. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not an option.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah. Well, so I mean, just like quickly rattle things off, but the forced OneDrive, opt out, I guess it is, for user accounts. That's another one, is making it very difficult to not have an online account for your Windows machine.
Well, that one is really interesting to me because it's this progression. And in the beginning, it was you had to jump through hoops and you had to click a lot. There was a lot of, let's call it dark pattern. And most recently, the most recent change is that before the change, you would press Shift F10 to get a command prompt.
OOBE/bypass NRO.
Yeah, and so apparently enough people did that they had to take that out.
Yeah.
Shift F10 is what brings up the command prompt there. Can't wait for Microsoft to patch that out. Foreshadowing. What does that tell you if the analytics on your dashboard is showing that enough people are willing to run Shift F10 to bypass the account cloud creation? Does that maybe suggest that shouldn't be a workflow there? Maybe, possibly.
Well, I mean, that's your adversarial comment, right? So instead of going, oh, people don't like this, they go, oh no, hey, you're going to use it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of condescending. It's like, I'm sorry, you're a moron. You have to create an account. Everybody has to have an account. This is how it has to be. And I guarantee you that some executive in some meeting has said that, losing sight of the big picture.
Well, so I don't think it's a hot take or anything. It seems to me that the natural progression for Windows is going to be some form of subscription service.
Yeah.
Plus a free model with ads or whatever.
Yeah.
Because everyone's subscription service, Adobe went that route years ago now, and every company wants subscription software.
Yeah.
And so I'm a little scared of at what point, and maybe, Apple might be scary enough for Microsoft where maybe they don't pull the trigger on that anytime soon. It seems like that would cause mass exodus, but maybe not.
I think even thinking about it in terms of cloud subscription is even jumping a little bit ahead, because if you think about, it's like, what is a good end user experience? It's like, what if I had something on my phone and my phone could just say, hey, I'm near the laptop. I can use the Wi-Fi connection to just back up the phone to the laptop. Or I'm at home, I can back up your laptop and your phone to like a home NAS appliance, which is always going to be faster than the cloud.
Right.
So it seems like delivering that would be something that delivers a good home user experience. Windows Home Server, I'm really dating myself here, but Windows Home Server being a decade old was a good user experience, and Microsoft slowly murdered it.
Yeah.
One of the really offensive things with OneDrive is, Microsoft used to have shadow copy, but then they started trying to move my documents into the cloud and online stuff. And OneDrive sort of neuters the ability for shadow copy to work correctly on those kinds of folders.
Oh, okay.
And so it's like
that.
the operating system used to have stuff built in to automatically do snapshots across the entire drive. And then Microsoft made something worse that doesn't work as well. And now it's, forced OneDrive.
So, I mean, what's the end game for this? Because I guess in industries where you have more competitors, it would be unlikely. It would be sort of the death of a company to continue down an adversarial path if they have numerous competitors.
Yeah.
But
you would build something that actually doesn't suck.
Yeah, but I mean, everyone knows the competitors are Apple and some variation of Linux.
Yeah, or possibly Android devices,
Fair enough.
Chromebooks,
Yeah,
etc.
So what is the progression? Because I mean, it feels like there should be a breaking point where users say, "I've had enough.
Yeah,
I'm not putting up with Microsoft's BS changes anymore. I'm switching." But like, if they're not going to go to Apple, is there too much of a Is Linux still too scary for people?
So I think that we both, because of our history with the technology, I think we both fall into a trap of thinking about it in terms of operating systems.
Okay.
I think actually what's going to happen is there's going to be a fundamental shift in the way that people compute in the first place. And so it may be that all of your devices go to thin or thin-ish clients. I think Discord is a pretty good example of that, because like Discord, think about compare and contrast the experience with Discord to the Microsoft Teams experience. They have a lot of overlapping functionality and an Electron application running disguised like as if it's a native application, when the reality is it is not a native application. It's basically a web application. It doesn't work at all offline, which Windows is increasingly flaky when it's offline.
Yeah.
I think that is what we end up having as an end user experience, and the operating system matters less and less. Microsoft's already doing that with Outlook. Like the new Outlook, not what's part of Office 365. When you set up an account in Outlook, what you're actually doing is setting up an email account in the cloud. So when your computer is off and unplugged, Microsoft is downloading your IMAP inboxes and whatever from the email accounts you set up. That application is not running, I mean it kind of is, but mostly not running on your local machine, it's running in the cloud. And so there were some Linux people that were running, that set up, I was like, well, I have a Windows computer, I added my email address to this, and they were like, wait a minute, my email server is showing that I'm logging into my mailbox. This is a Microsoft IP address, but my computer is off.
Oh, okay. So to what end, I guess? What's
Microsoft's
objective?
I think that they see the writing on the wall that the end user experience is going to be less and less coupled to the individual machine, and this is a vector for them to control the experience in the cloud. The problem is they're delivering experiences like Teams, which if you just took a rando and sat them down and said, you're going to use Teams for messaging and you're going to use Discord for messaging, the person is going to say, wow, Discord is so much better because it responds immediately, and it generally doesn't do crashing and weird stuff.
It's easier to understand the interface too for messaging.
Yeah.
So, I mean, does it go? I mean, this kind of comes back to the comment I keep seeing in our comment section, which is actually this came up with the Zotac thing. Not fully related, but someone posted the comment of, remember, the cloud is just someone else's computer. Right? You see that a lot now.
Yeah.
And
remember, your computer, your Outlook account is just somebody else's and it's like, I didn't intend to do that. I've never known email to work that way.
But I mean, if the average user is still not savvy enough to really care or notice the downsides of cloud connected everything, does it just happen whether or not the savvy users care?
Yeah,
right?
I think I was much more despondent until after the strong negative reaction to things like Windows recall.
That was good. I was happy to see that.
Yeah, people sort of look at it and they say, wait a minute, it's taking screenshots every 15 seconds? And I think some of the negative visceral reaction was because those users have experienced this adversarial history, and they have a very deep memory of their preferences being changed, of the operating system sort of gaslighting you into, oh, this is how it's always worked.
I mean, to me, I assume every service. I said this to there was a company I was working with recently, and the topic came up of online versus offline accounting software, and they're basically asking me as a non-expert, what do I think about the safety? And I said, my perspective is, I assume every online service is not if, it's when is it going to be breached. Yeah. Right? And so I operate under that assumption that everything is going to be breached at some point.
Yeah.
And so that's why recall was so scary to me, where it's like, I don't care how secure they say it is. Like you look at Spectre and Meltdown, no one thought these things were going to affect millions of CPUs, and here we are, right?
Yeah, it turns out it's not secure in either scenario.
Yeah, that's true.
But Microsoft 365, like Microsoft has some amazing security people and they have some amazing, and even with all of that in place, nobody noticed that Office 365 had been compromised in a very deep way, negatively impacting Fortune 500 customers as well as governmental customers.
That's good.
Yeah, and so it's just like fundamentally, the software is not architected in a way to even detect that level of intrusion properly. You just got lucky, basically.
Right.
And that's true with open source. Like open source has similar kinds of defects that are not the same, but they definitely rhyme.
Is there a positive here for Microsoft? I mean, do you think? I feel like there's a lot of things I'm optimistic about. I'm really not for Windows because it just feels like it's getting worse and worse. And I remember a very long time ago when I think it was Windows XP came out, and at one point I had asked my dad why he was using 98, and he said it's better, And then fast forward,
Old man yells at cloud.
Yeah, fast
literally.
forward some years, I felt that way. The first time I felt that way about an OS was 7.
Yeah.
Right. I was like, I'm not moving from 7. So I guess the point being that this is like decades of a pattern.
Yeah.
And there's some old man yells at cloud, but
for me, I've been running Linux so long, but I've been running Linux in parallel to everything else that I do, that I almost have 2 tiers of computing. And so for me, I have, my Linux stuff, and some of that is buggy, and some of that has not survived well, upgrades well. Because I think back like a bazillion years ago, I was using like Matrox graphics cards, and I'd done all this cool stuff to make the Matrox, and then now I'm on AMD, and I've got all sorts of other hackery to make the AMD experience even that much better. And it still breaks, and there's still stuff that happens that I don't like, that I understand is a consequence of technology moving forward. But that stuff has like a 5 and a 10-year lifetime for how I use it. And for most of the other computing that I do, I basically treat it as disposable. And I think a lot of people are probably like falling into that. I've noticed a lot of people like live on their phones, and they do stuff critically important on their phones, and they'll back up photos from their laptop to their phone.
That's insane to me.
Yeah, me too. But it's because they've had a better overall experience, a more coherent experience on their phone than they have on everything else. Yeah.
Is that what it is? Is it like it's easier to navigate, or is it actually works better fundamentally?
It seems like almost instinctual, because when I've encountered these situations, it's like, let me ask, what's your experience? It's like, well, I uploaded a bunch of photos to OneDrive or Google Drive, and then they wanted to start charging me money. And then I have this, this USB hard drive at home, and I was doing that. But then I got this new phone, and I opted to get the giant, 1 terabyte phone, and I copy my images that way. But even stuff like Apple doesn't make it easy to do it with theirs. Like, I want to plug in a USB cable and copy images, and it's like, no, you're not thinking about it right. That interface, at least until recently, literally is like USB 2. And so copying stuff out of your phone at USB 2 speeds.
It's like 480 megabit, right?
Yeah, it's not fun.
Yeah.
Not fun at all. And so I think on the very most expensive iPhone, there's an interface that's less slow. But again, it's that most people don't realize that adversarial relationship. It's like, how do I easily get stuff? Like, I should be able to snapshot my phone and smash it to 1,000,000 pieces, and then just get a replacement phone, and it works. And the comments will tell us that is the Apple experience with iCloud. And it's like, oh, that's how they got you. It's like, what is iCloud doing for you? It's storing 1s and 0s. Why can't this cheap device on my home networks also store the 1s and 0s?
Because it's a cheap device on your home network.
You can back up through iTunes at 480 megabit.
So is now a good time to move to Linux as an end user? Like,
I'm encouraged by the number of people that are joining our forums to be like, I've had it. I'm coming to the Linux.
I daily drove, this is a long time ago, so 2009 to probably about 2011, my laptop was some Ubuntu, whatever, and used that as a daily machine. Mostly did effectively notepad work and email. It's fine for that, but I haven't had a ton of hands-on modern experience with applications. Is it there yet?
It depends on the distro, and there's a lot of caveats and exceptions.
Let's assume the most user-friendly distro, like the most widely compatible. Get me off of Windows, Wendell. Save me from Windows.
I think you're basically fine. Here's the mind-blowing thing. This is the slam dunk. right now, gaming on Linux with Proton and everything that Lord Gaben has done, thank you, Lord Gaben, is a better experience than Snapdragon Elite.
Okay. That's depressing and embarrassing.
Yeah.
And not for Valve.
Yeah. As of what is this? February? No, July 10th.
February. What the hell?
I've been up 2 flights of stairs today, so I was like, February. No, July 10th. The success rate of random game working on one of those ARM laptops is about 50%.
I mean, that's what it is on like the Steam Deck, right? There's a ton of stuff that works on it.
Yeah.
So it's kind of there.
Yeah.
But Snapdragon, I haven't actually worked with any of those systems yet, and I know that you did.
Yeah. It's not a fun developer experience, and for the stuff that they promised, like the dude went on stage and he's like, 1,800 games at launch. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be
1,800 is like means nothing to me. There's like probably tens or hundreds of thousands of games.
Yeah, well, it turns out those were all just like solitaire.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, somebody got the 501 CD-ROM from the Internet Archive and like, all these work fine. 1,800 games. It's like, no, I'm sorry.
Simcopter.
Yeah, they couldn't. It was so bad that Cyberpunk 2077, which worked with the launch day driver, immediately broke on the June 10th Adreno driver update because like a developer process, like, do you have regression tests in place? Do you have like the DirectX test suite to be sure that it passes DirectX validation? Because like Microsoft gives you these things if you're a large enough developer. They have none of that.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
That's not good.
Meanwhile, Proton is just relentlessly inching along.
Well, maybe that's promising then.
Yeah.
Because I would like an escape vector from Windows sooner than later.
Yeah.
It's only a matter of time before they're like, hey, remember recall?
Yeah.
It's here. So.
Yeah, and that's the wild thing about Windows is that Windows doesn't have to be an awful experience. It's just that the more, the tighter the grip is, the more they'll slip through your fingers or whatever. But I think that there has never been a better opportunity to be completely operating system agnostic, given the sheer volume of people that bounce between Android and Windows and Linux. And maybe even, Apple, Mac OS. And like the web experience is the thing that gives you that.
So Microsoft is killing Windows.
Yeah, well, Microsoft is killing the user experience, which is only going to kill people's dependence on specific operating systems.
Okay, yeah.
Which I think is probably better. Probably better for the Apple people too. But Apple's also coming at it as like, we want your experience on the iPhone and the iPad and the laptop to be cohesive, because once you're in, you don't want to give that up.
Yeah, your escape velocity is very high to get out of that ecosystem.
Yeah, exactly. And then Apple can also upsell you on their cloud services, because it's like, oh, you mean I can just give Apple $5 and they'll make this annoying situation go away? Whereas the experience at Microsoft is, Microsoft has created an annoying situation, they want $5 to stop. And it's like, the perception is very different.
Yeah. Adversarial.
Adversarial computing. It's a deeper topic. We should discuss more. But that's it for this one.
Thank you for hosting, Wendell.
No, thank you for coming.
And giving me absolutely no hope at all.
A little bit of hope. It's actually probably never been a better time to have access to this kind of stuff. I actually think that we're in a position now to like really, one of the things that is a problem, final parting thought, one of the things that's a problem with open source stuff is think about like LibreOffice. It's open source Office suite. It's actually so complicated it's unmaintainable. Perhaps with AI tools, we'll be able to retool it into something that actually can be maintained. And with that, AI will usher in a new era of open source computing.
We made it the whole video. No AI.
All right.